In a black suit, armed with an axe, there is an executioner, a symbol of the medieval era. He is one of the most vivid images of that time, as well as many others presented in history. However, the real practice of the executioners differed from the image in many aspects. For example, the executioner's mask was rarely worn, and axes were used even less often than is represented in the image. But representatives of this profession actively operated with swords and torture. It is interesting that among them it was possible to meet good people who happened to be in this profession. One should not think that the executioners were unequivocally cruel individuals. The example of Tim Werner, who lived in Bavaria in 1580, shows that the choice to become an executioner was often imposed by circumstances. Tim's father, Oliver, became an executioner to avoid his own punishment for the crime he committed. Thus, Tim was not given a choice, and he followed his father's path. The system of passing down professions from parents to children was widespread. Children of executioners in different parts of Europe learned this craft from an early age. Starting with the creation of models from pumpkins and stuffed animals, Timo gradually moved on to training on real objects. He mastered the art of beheading a dog, adhering to strict standards to avoid unnecessary cruelty. In addition to the executioner's skills, Timo studied anatomy and medicine. This was a common practice among executioners. They did not necessarily become doctors, but good knowledge of the human body was necessary for the accurate and painless production of the treasury. Timo often traveled around the region, participating in executions where necessary. Despite the negative associations associated with this profession, executioners were in demand in society. However, it was a difficult job, and not many were eager to do it. On this continent, executioners were absent since the times of Rome. However, countries like Germany and France did make efforts. Yet, this isn't 2020 where evading justice is impossible. A significant portion of criminals simply fled, evading consequences. Rulers had no choice but to teach criminals a lesson, leading to highly publicized executions involving large crowds. The goal was to make being a criminal an unwelcome prospect, a rarity. Our central figure, Timo Werner, serves as an embodiment of justice. While not exactly relishing his role, he recognizes its necessity. Addressing a common myth about executioners concealing their faces, Timo rarely wore a mask. This practice was more of an exception due to the scarcity of executioners, and disguises were seldom needed, usually reserved for cases of high notoriety. Timo remains vigilant against potential attacks, as sympathizers from the public sometimes confronted executioners. Those criticizing the profession failed to understand its intricacies. Sadism was near non-existent among executioners. Otherwise, sadists wouldn't have been allowed into the fold. Most executioners, like Timo, were individuals who saw their role as a necessary but solemn duty. Execution methods weren't limited to beheadings. A myriad of techniques existed, such as hanging, drowning, burning, and even the intricate breaking wheel. Regular tortures complemented executions, striking a roughly equal balance in their practice. Typically, for every execution, an equal number of torture sessions were conducted. Silent executioners, too, were an anomaly. They were permitted to voice official pleas for changes in execution methods. The executioner Franz Schmidt, for instance, persistently sought more humane methods. Generally, executions were approved if the physical state or moral considerations of the victim warranted it. For instance, women who committed infanticide were usually drowned. Schmidt, an executioner, also worked as a practicing doctor, leveraging anatomical knowledge to offer diagnoses. Compensation for executioners varied. They received housing and tax exemptions, counterbalancing their societal isolation. However, wages were tied directly to an executioner's reputation. If Timo proves himself skilled, he could lead a comfortable life. Although more renowned executioners could afford lavish lifestyles, lesser skilled executioners struggled to make ends meet, often resorting to additional jobs such as corpse cleaners, a prevalent medieval profession. Executioners had limited social interactions due to public scorn, associating mainly with lower echelons of society, petty criminals, and women of questionable virtue. Occasionally, rulers employed executioners as tax collectors from undesirable locales. However, the social life of a respected executioner occasionally thrived, despite the grim circumstances of the medieval era. During the Middle Ages, medical care was inadequate, pushing people to seek remedies from healers. Timo's medical skills far surpassed those of church doctors, who primarily relied on prayers. Franz Schmidt, an executioner mentioned earlier, was a competent doctor as well. Besides executioner duties, he practiced medicine and excelled in anatomy, aiding Timo in accurate diagnoses. This supplementary income was vital, given the workload of executioners. Historically, they executed roughly one person per month and tortured another. This intense schedule left little leisure time for Timo. Yet, if he could balance it, he could plan for the future, even marriage and family. Although the role might not be appealing to others, executioners' children could escape the same fate. Cases existed where diligent executioners with notable service records sought clemency for their families, leading to their release and offering their children a chance at a different life. Timo, as a skilled executioner, needs to excel in his role and establish beneficial relationships. The profession, though not simple, is imperative, for without it, Timo might end up in an unmarked grave. His son would likely inherit his fate, mirroring the existence of other executioner families. The popular image of bloodthirsty sadists doesn't capture the essence of executioners. They are more like captives of circumstance than malicious torturers, and the harsh societal conditions of their time required their unique services.